Hello again. In this session, we will take a look at another important error type on grammar, which is known as parallelism. Now, parallelism is again an often tested concept. What parallelism fundamentally means is that in your sentence structure, entities have to be parallel or similar in structure. Now, when I say entities, what exactly do I mean by saying entities? Now, let's understand this. Simply, this means that there has to be consistency in sentence structure. Now, these entities can be things like any of these that we talked about. So let's say if you have items in a list, the jug, the pen, and the table, or you are talking about verbs or actions or activities in a series, running, bowling, singing, descriptions or modifiers like adjectives or adverbs, happily, luckily, happier, busier, so forth and so on. So all these must be written in the same form. Now, what do I mean by saying in the same form? It means that, for example, if you look at this part, we are talking about verbs in a series. Now, if we are talking about the verbs run, bowl, and sing, all of them used in the same context, referring to the same subject, let's say, then it is incorrect to use two of the verbs in the ing form and one verb in a past tense form. That would be incorrect. That's what we mean by saying they have to be parallel. So they have to be consistent in sentence structure. Now, remember that you have to look at in all these examples the grammatical consistency. Like I mentioned, these are all in a present continuous form or ing form. Now, if you look at items in the list, all these have the preceding the actual noun. So these are again consistent in structure. So at the very fundamental level, this is what parallelism as such means. But this is not how simple your exam would really look at, or give you questions as such. Now, if you're looking at, let's say, simple sentences, now the title says, can you spot the error? Let's see if we can. This simply says she loves to sing, to dance, and acting. So here we are referencing to three verbs, all of them in the same context, referring to the same subject, right? So in such a case, we have to just check if all the three are parallel in structure or no. So you'll observe that to sing and to dance are parallel, but acting is not parallel. So you would simply rewrite acting as to act. So the correct form would be she loves to sing, to dance, and to act. Now here comes another question. Is this the only correct way of writing it? Do we have to change the ing form into an infinitive form, or can we also look at changing the ing forms or the infinitive forms to ing forms? So can we say she loves singing, she loves dancing and acting? That would also be absolutely correct. There is nothing wrong with that either. So either way should be correct. Let's take a look at the second example. This says, last night Mira went to the party, drank soda, and was driving back home. So now just understand that this is a very simple sentence where the verbs are right next to each other and there is not much of complexity involved in the sentence. This has introduced something a little more, I mean, it just put in some more phrases and some more words to make the sentence look a little complex. But then again, observe what the actions are. Mira went to the party. This is simple past. Drank soda, simple past. And was driving back home is not simple past. Now, you will have to convert this also into simple past by correcting it as and drove back home. That's how you correct it. Now, here comes another question. Should we have to convert all of them into simple past? Why can't we convert all of them into past continuous tense? So can't we say last night Mira was going to the party, was drinking soda, and was driving back home? Now that would not be correct because of this usage of last night. Last night is a definite point of time in the past, and the entire sentence is indicating completed actions. So completed actions that happen at a certain point of time in the past will take only simple past. They do not take any continuous tense. So the correct usage would be only to use them in simple past and change was driving to drove. That would correct the sentence. But like I said, this is a very elementary level of parallelism. You can also be looking at much more complex parallelism in your exam. Now, how would complex parallelism look like, and what are the things that we need to know? Now, complex parallelism can expect you to actually understand, identify if two phrases are parallel in structure or no. Now, when you talk about phrases again, there could be multiple phrases. You could be looking at prepositional phrases, infinitive phrases, gerund phrases, or even participial phrases. So any of these phrases can be used and parallelism tested in a sentence, and if you're able to identify the error or not. Now, what is a prepositional phrase? Simply put, prepositional phrase is a phrase that uses a preposition, as simple as that. For example, the difference lies not in hearing but in listening. So these two have been underlined here. These are both prepositional phrases because they have used the preposition in. Now, are they parallel or not is what you have to think. Difference lies not in hearing, but had you used but by listening, then the sentence would not have made sense. The sentence would have implied that these two prepositional phrases are not in sync or not in similar structure. That would have been incorrect. If you look at infinitive phrases usually use to before them. So this says it is important to understand the social sciences as it is to study the pure sciences. Now, it is important. It is important is your first part. Then comes your second part. It is important to do what? To understand social sciences. Now, to understand is the structure in the first part. So, now you're implying a similarity as it is. So this, you're saying that these two are similar as it is, implying that the second part must also now be parallel or similar in structure to the first part. So the second part also must take a to form. So as it is to study the pure sciences. So what would be incorrect is if you said something like as it is studying the pure sciences. So this sentence structure would have been incorrect because the infinitive phrases are not parallel in structure. If you look at gerund phrases, now if you've learned what infinitives and gerunds and participles are, do not forget your basics that you learned in your verbs class. Now, I prefer watching a movie to reading a book. Now, I prefer watching a movie to reading a book. Both these, remember, the actual verb in the sentence is prefer. This is a phrase. Watching a movie is a phrase, reading a book is a phrase. These are gerund phrases because they are using the ing forms of the verb watch, watch and read. So now here I prefer watching a movie to, because this is an ing form, this also has to be an ing gerund form. It would be wrong to say I prefer to watch a movie to reading a book. That would have been incorrect. Or it is incorrect to say I prefer watching a movie to read a book. That would have been incorrect again. So what would be wrong is to simply say read a book. Then let's come to participial phrases. In participial phrases, this says something like this: the man hearing his doorbell and not knowing who it was. Now, hearing his doorbell, knowing who it was. Participles can be both in a continuous form, ing form, they can also be in a past tense form. The cloth washed at the laundry and ironed at home. So whenever you're using participles, again, understand that even participles when used in phrases have to be parallel in structure. So this is an example when you're talking about parallelism in phrases. Let's see how parallelism in clauses works. Now, when you have, let's say, two clauses, the example says, Phil does not want to know. So till here is one part. Phil does not want to know is one part. Then comes the second part. Why Anne was waiting. Now this is a clause. This is a clause because you have a subject and you also have a verb. Was waiting. And then or when she would be leaving. Now this also would be leaving is your verb and she is your subject. So this has a subject and a verb part, which means this is also a clause. So now you are combining two clauses with some conjunction like or. So when you're combining clauses, so it's not just words that parallelism applies to. It is not just phrases that parallelism applies to. Parallelism applies to clauses also. In fact, most importantly clauses, that's what is usually tested when we talk about complex parallelism. So here, these clauses as per the rule of parallelism must be similar in structure. Now what does that mean here? We're saying Phil does not want to know why Anne was waiting or when she would be leaving. So here, this part on why Anne was leaving or when. So these two indicate that, because both of these start off with an interrogative word like why or when, these two indicate that your clauses are parallel. Moreover, both these clauses uh, uh, are grammatically correct, obviously, because it says why Anne was waiting, because Phil does not want to know why Anne was waiting or when she would be leaving. So both of these again are also grammatically correct because they have used the right tenses as such, and hence they are also parallel. Now let's take